Welcome to the Life Coaching Podcast, your go to source for inspiration, transformation, and actionable insights. I am your host, Angel Gonzalez, and I am thrilled to have you on this journey towards personal excellence and empowerment. In each episode, I dive deep into the realms of life coaching, wealth creation, and personal development, sharing transformational stories from individuals who have achieved significant breakthroughs in their life. Whether you are aiming to redefine your career, improve your relationships, or discover your true passions, this podcast is your partner in unlocking your full potential. Join me every week to hear from thought leaders, experts, and everyday heroes who share their practical strategies and heartfelt stories of success. If you are ready to unleash your potential, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of the Life Coaching Podcast. Today, I have a special guest. She is Kasey Bergh, a Missouri lady who's been there her whole life, and now she's dedicated as a transformational coach and storyteller. She defines herself as a lighthouse, but her story goes beyond that. Her story, it's about how she helped people every single day bringing light to their own life. She calls herself the lighthouse. And also, she has a breakthrough story of love that I want to share with you because when everything was looking or was appearing like things were not going to go better for her, she just found a love that changed her life completely. So, Kasey, welcome.
Angel, it's such a delight to be with you.
Thank you very much, Kasey. I was looking forward to talking to you and record this episode because I believe in two things. I believe in love. Absolutely. I think that love is actually the fuel of the life. And I also believe in coaching, of course. That's part of my life. Transformational coaching is what I do. I love when I find someone who can embrace those two aspects of life, helping people on one side and believing in true love. So, Kasey, I will love to share with this audience your story first, and then we talk about coaching. Are you happy with that?
Yes, absolutely. Where do you want me to start?
Fantastic. Kasey, your story is absolutely emotional from the beginning to the end. I think that for every single human being who experience a divorce or separation in any way, that might feel that love is not there for them anymore. I think that could be a groundbreaking moment to share with everyone and explain that hope is not lost by separation, but we all can find love again. So tell me about
Yes.
your story.
Well, I was okay married. I don't think I knew how unhappy I was. But all of a sudden, my husband decided he wanted a divorce. And I was blindsided. And now, many years in the future, looking back, I know that it was my abandonment issues that just took over. And I was devastated. I felt like a 3-year-old who was supposed to go and live on her own in the world that was just so big. And I felt like this little tiny scared thing. I didn't eat, I started to smoke. It was just like everything was horrible. But in the midst of all my crying and all of the pain, well, I did go to see a psychiatrist because I knew I better get on something to help me. So I got on an antidepressant. And I put Post-it notes up everywhere in my apartment, every cabinet where my cereal was, in the bathroom, just put notes for myself all over because I knew that I was going to get through this, but I knew that right now I was devastated. And I think I found something that was I said, if I'm going to go through this time anyway, I may as well grow while I'm doing it. So even when I was at my most devastated, I think that I was still starting to read the work of Byron Katie or listening to Eckhart Tolle and learning about living in the moment. And then I'd cry and then I'd eat too much or something. And then I'd have a date and I'm tall. I'm pretty tall. And I always would say that I would never date somebody shorter than me. And the universe brought me all these men that were short. And I thought, well, okay, this is a lesson to learn. So I kept dating the short guys until they went away. But then there were no other real good dates. And I just kept learning lessons and saying no, thank you. And I think it was right at the point where I had really started to say, this is pretty good. I kind of like being single. I have a great apartment. I have friends all over the world. I go to concerts. I do have all of the things that I'm happy with. And I actually like being single. And how many women can really say that, you know? So I was there. And then everything changed, right? It was a transformational moment.
The emotion that you bring to this moment in your life is completely honest, is genuine. I want to acknowledge you for that because I think that this part of the story, and you still have to tell more, this part of the story is really important for every single person who experienced something like that because there are 2 points that you mentioned here. One of those is the rule that we have for love. So you are a tall person, a tall woman, wonderful woman, and your rule in that moment was not dating shorter people like you. And that probably prevented you from living great experiences. However, you were true with your rule and you decided to keep going and you decided to try a different lifestyle, which was the single style because you were happy and you felt whole with yourself. How long did it take you before you feel like that, before you heal that moment of separation?
Do you know, Angel, it would come and then it would go, but it was only about 3 months after the separation that I started to feel like I was me all the time instead of just when I was away from my husband. So I hadn't realized that I was making myself look a different way or act a different way when I was with him. I didn't think I could be as free. I was really starting to like delve into a bigger world. And that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know, had just come out. And I was so fascinated with it. And he couldn't talk about anything like that. So it took me about 3 months to start feeling like a much wholer woman. But then I would think, I'll never find love. And then I would get stronger. And then the calendar would be empty for weeks at a time. And I would feel so devastated. But then something new would happen. And so, you know, it just kept giving me more and more hope, if you will, or energy towards growing. I've always grown. I've always just embraced growing. And that's what, you know, my light was pulling me forward even when it felt so dark.
Yes, yes, I think that's something really, really important because when you step into yourself, when you find that moment to see yourself from inside and find that light, transformation start happening. And it's happened because you start realizing that you were not only the married woman, you were not only the wife, but you were something else. You were more than that. And that's the second part, because one aspect that you mentioned was the role of love. But the second part is your identity. And your identity is also the compound of three different aspects. One of those is the belief system, one of those is the value system, and another more important in which we are linked really, really deep is the role that we play in life. And we play many roles. And when we are in a relationship, we actually identify ourselves with that role. So separation, that's one of the reasons why separation is so complicated in some cases, because people lose part of that identity. It's the role that they play on that. So
Yeah.
you say that after 3 months, you start feeling like yourself again. Tell me about that moment in which you found yourself, your identity, in in finding who you really were, who you really are?
Yeah. So I'm going to say now we're going to hold on to this whole role thing because I'm going to want to come back to that when we start talking about coaching. Okay. I love that you brought that up because roles, boy. When I started to feel more myself, it was a certainty in me, a knowledge that this is a topic that I really like. It was an awareness. It was lighter, and I wasn't so lonely or devastated. Although, like I said, there was waves of it, but that's what I remember starting to feel was like my feet on the ground and just more solid, if you will, and knowing what was important to me and being able to do it. So that was pretty important. Yeah. I always believe in the universe's timing. And, there's the whole thing about when you plant a plant, you can't yell at it or try and pull it up, to grow faster. And so I went along with the universe's timing, and it was almost exactly 6 years when I was on a work trip, and I was trying to find the people that I was supposed to get together with in this park in Denver, Colorado. And no, I couldn't find anyone. And everybody I tried to call or anyone I was trying to text was not available. And I had to go to this park and try to help with this big event that I was there for. And so I sent one last text to somebody that I had in my phone, and I thought that it was this guy. And I got a wrong number. And I had sent this text and said, "Hey, it's Kasey. I was supposed to meet Maria at the hotel, and she's still in St. Louis, and I was wondering if you'd want to hang out." And I got this very lovely and polite response that said, "You've got the wrong number, but if I wasn't on my way to work, I'd be happy to hang out with you." And I was so embarrassed. And so then I wrote back, maybe another person would have just been like, "All right, wrong number, see ya." But I was like, "I'm so sorry." And I'm from St. Louis, and I knew he was from St. Louis. And I said, "I'm in Denver on a work trip." And he writes back and says, "I'm going to be driving through Denver next week. I'm going on a solo walkabout." And I was like, well, isn't that fascinating that this person said that he was going on a solo walkabout and thought it would be something to share with me. So I liked the pleasantry of it. And I said, but at that point I said, "Well, it was nice to meet you." And I got in a cab and went to the park, and it was this massive park. Like, everybody thinks of Central Park in New York as like this big, huge park. And it was like that. And we drove all around. And finally I was like, let's go back to the hotel. And Angel, I'm a connector. And the only person on the planet of 8 billion people that I've been able to connect to was a wrong number. And so I wrote back. I said, I was like $35 in the cab later. I still don't have anybody to hang out with. And a couple hours later, I got a reply back. And the reply said, "Do you know that what you put your energy on is what will come back to you? Do you know anything about The Secret, or do you know anything about the law of attraction, or have you ever read the book, The Secret?" And I was like, who is this that's on the other side of this wrong number text? But at that moment, that was the moment. And I texted him back, and I was like, I live that. And we started to text and email, and we emailed and texted for a week. And then we met. I'll tell you some more, but if you have any questions or comments, I'll stop right there.
That's fantastic. I love that part of the story because it's the kind of actions that are unexpected, and things just happen as he said. So it's part of the law of attraction. It's part of the energy that you put in something that you really want it to happen, but you are not expecting it to happen.
Yeah.
So just continue this story, because I think that's something really important. If someone is right now in the state of grieving because they just separated, or they just got the unfortunate event of losing that relationship by any circumstance. I know that the period of grieving is different for every person.
Mhm.
And the characteristics are absolutely unique for each case because every person is unique. I believe in that. And I believe that we all experience these type of events the best way possible for ourselves in that moment from our
Mhm.
learnings, our belief, and that's the way that we learn how to grieve when separation comes to us. Now, in your case, you grieve and you decided at a certain point to open up to that opportunity and you release that energy to the universe. And the
Yeah.
universe start sending you a signal, this time with a wrong number that you texted. And it happened that you were going to be in the same place, in the same neighborhood, basically, doing something that other in other different circumstances, it would never happen for you to cross paths. And now
Right.
you are at the
Yeah.
point in which, hey, I am here. I have no one to hang out. You were not looking for anything, but it was just the right moment, the right place. And what happened next?
Well, the thing is that so the person that I texted, his name is Henry, and Henry never answers a wrong number text. So, like you said, everything had to work perfectly. And as we continued, we had no like attraction to each other. It was just kind of an excitement to meet. And like I had said, my ex-husband hadn't been interested in talking about the law of attraction or any of those things that I had started to really be interested in. And here, this person on the other side of the text is asking me that. The next morning, the very first question he asked me was if I knew what my Myers-Briggs personality type was. And I like, who is this? Oh, here's my cat who just decided to jump up here. But I'm like, who in the world is this who's speaking my language through this phone? And then the energy, but it was, I think we were 800 miles apart in Denver and in St. Louis, but the energy was just so strong, and we're sharing and sharing. And I came back here to St. Louis, and we decided to have coffee a week later. So that was on June 29th. And so it was like July 6th or something of 2012. And there's a big fireworks thing that happens in St. Louis by the famous St. Louis Arch. And there was going to be a concert that night. And I said, and I was, oh, wait a minute. Oh, Angel, I'm getting a little out of order. During these texts, I find out that he's 23 and sells paint at a hardware store. And I'm 52 at the time, and I am the community affairs director for a $9 billion company. So everybody in this community and all over knows me, and he's 23. So we didn't still bat an eye. We met for coffee, and we were both supposed to go to the concert. And while we were at coffee, his friend canceled and my friend canceled. And I said, I think that we're supposed to go together. And so I said, do you trust me? Do you want to come with me? You don't even know me that well, but we'd been having a fun conversation. And so he came, and we were having such a fun time. And about halfway through the concert, all of a sudden he was standing in back of me, and he put his hands kind of possessively on my hips. And, somebody else would have just turned around and said, hey, bucko, this is not what's happening. But in that moment, and as a person who is interested in possibilities and who was like, maybe this is what's happening. So I just kind of went with it. And then we fell in love in 30 minutes or something. It was just right away, instantaneous. He looked like he was 17. I'm this big person in the community. And that was another really big moment for me because I had to decide what was the most important thing to me. Was it my outside? Was it my role? See, was it my role? But it was my soul. And I knew that he was an old soul, and I knew that he was on his way to doing something brilliant. And we just went with it.
Do you think that you found the light in that moment?
You know, in retrospect, yes, I was just giddy. I was just so excited and felt like a teenager. So I don't know if I had the cognizance to say I found light. I always lived with light. I went into that coffee shop filled with my light because I knew that he would say, "You're not like any other 52-year-old I've ever met." I knew that because that's how I am. And he was completely taken, and I was taken, and we would just talk about the most intense, wonderful things, and that was where my soul connected. And so I wasn't worried when somebody would see me and be like, "Who are you with? Is that your son?" So
Yes, and that's the other part of the story, because people judge people. We are the type
yeah.
of race that we are judgmental, and we try to set labels, boundaries that are beyond ourselves, and see the wrong thing everywhere. So, looking at yourself as playing an important role in the company, a $9 million company, and you were one of the executive managers, if I am correct, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden, after 6 years of being yourself and being by yourself, you found this love in a 30 years old man,
23.
younger than you.
23. Oh yeah, he was at the time, he was 29 years younger.
Yes.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, you didn't want to date a shorter man, but you ended up dating a 30 years old
Yeah.
younger man. So how did it happen for you? How did you find that it was a part of that rule that you have for love? How did you decided that, hey, I'm going to give myself this opportunity rather than set another barrier or another rule that prevent me from having the experience?
Angel, I think I had prepared myself for 6 years. I think that I had to learn so many lessons, and I had learned from so many of the greats, the relationship people, the people who are like saying, live in this moment only, the people who are like, if you are going to judge somebody else, it's really what's in you. So all of that stuff, it was like all the stepping stones gave me the presence. And then being in touch with my soul. And so many of the other men that I had dated, I had to hold all of this energy in. And I had to pretend like I wasn't interested. There's all those silly games. And with Henry, I was like open and free and excited. I would be like, "I'm so excited to see you." And he'd be like, "I'm so excited," and so it was just, it felt so real that's why I knew that myself felt real, and that in my job, I could still do my job. And if people were going to judge me, then I was already kind of a hippie in a corporate job. So I kind of was already a rebel. But I didn't want to, this wasn't about being a rebel or just shoving it in somebody's face. It was about knowing myself.
Life mastery is the ultimate tool for discovering your real self and healing from any personal constraint that might hinder your growth. The purpose of this journal is to nurture your mental health and foster a space of self development, self awareness, and self love, which can impact positively your thoughts, actions, and behaviors. Embark in this exciting world of personal growth by committing to answer a handful of daily questions designed to guide you through a path of development, happiness, and fulfillment.
That's wonderful. I love that story. I think that's a clear example that everyone can have a second opportunity, another opportunity to find love
Yeah.
and to break through and understand that sometimes we are too rigid in order of the rules that we set for ourselves. And we
Hmm.
don't need to be that rigid. I have a huge set of rules for my own life. And sometimes is even overwhelming at times when you are in the middle of all these rules and how you are going to behave or not behave in certain ways. And I know that you were in at certain point like that as well, because that's how you were raised and that's how you learn. And you
Yeah.
have your rules, and I'm not going to date this type of person, and I am not going to do this because this is my executive identity as well. And
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
these things happen, but in reality, we might tend to lose ourselves amongst all these rules and amongst all this environment that at the end of the day don't play for you, but against. Is that how you feel, or am I reading you in the wrong concept?
No, you are definitely reading me correctly. And as I've gone on in my life, I'm really interested in working with women whose role is suddenly gone because I had to go on kidney dialysis in 2017 because my first kidney failed after 22 years. And I expected to just go have a kidney transplant and be back to work like had happened 22 years ago. And instead, I ended up on dialysis for 2 years. And so I had to go on long term disability. Suddenly went in and met with the HR guy, and he said, "We can't hold your job any longer." And I walked into that meeting as the woman who had the role of my job. And I walked out and I did not know who I was. Without my job, I was lost for 3 or 4 months, or maybe even longer. If I met somebody at a social lunch or something, and I put my hand out and say, "Hi, I'm Kasey. I used to work at Purina." I didn't know how to say who I was. So, then I've had I had the divorce and I had a kidney transplant and I had to, lose my identity. And I think that women we put so much of ourselves into the role. And if it suddenly goes away, if the husband dies, if you get rid of him or he gets rid of you, or you have to retire or you choose to retire, when life is on the other side of that door, we don't know who we are because we have just put ourselves into that role so much. I think there's women who are fine as they make the transition, but there is an awful lot of us who don't know who we are without the role. So I loved that you said that earlier.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for the acknowledgement. Once again, identity is the compound of three main elements: your belief system, your values, and your roles. And most people are just ru- identify themselves with the roles, and they forget even about the belief because it just wrong in the background. And most people forget about the values that they have because it just wrong in the background, or live without awareness about them. But the
Mhm.
role, it's something that defines everyone in certain way, and you end up being your title at the job, you end up being your
Yeah.
title in the relationship, you end up being your title in the community, and that influence everything around you. And that's the importance of this job or this path that we choose for ourselves, to help people to find themselves actually, and to understand that they are more than roles, they are more than the labels that society place on them. They people are more than whatever the world, the outside world, define that's supposed to be real or not, that's supposed to be correct or not. And I would like to open the door for you in this moment and talk about this transformational coaching, because I believe that this transition in your life was really important in the process of finding yourself, your true self, as a transformational coach after
Mhm.
living this big company and this big position that you have there, after experiencing that separation with your ex-partner and experiencing additionally the trauma of being in a hospital after receiving dialysis and after an operation in a long-term disability, this was a huge transition loaded with a bit of trauma, emotional trauma and physical trauma, that opened up that door for you, not just to transform yourself, but to put yourself to the service of other people, of other women who needed that support that probably you were needing in that moment.
Yeah.
And it cost you time and effort to find it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You know, another thing that happened through Henry is, I guess it's the beliefs, because we just triggered each other. So we never have had arguments about our age difference, but it's personality type and childhood trauma wounds, you know, that will knock us down. And I had to learn how to reframe things. Like, he's an introvert and he would get overwhelmed when we were having a fight, and he'd go into a room and close the door. And then I would try to break down the door. Well, then he told me one time about how when he was a teenager, his parents took the door off of his room. So he had no privacy. So it was really important to him to recenter behind a door. And I started to think, well, and here I was feeling like this person I love the most has just walked away and shut a door on me, and all my abandonment issues was why I was on the other side of the door trying to get in. So he was living in his story or beliefs, as you say, and I was living in mine. And that's where the that's my favorite example of how you're just each living in your own thing, but it looks like the fight is about the other person, and it's your own thing. So we've had a lot to learn by that, and that's been fascinating for me. And so I'm just so interested in helping women help to see things, redefine, recalibrate, recenter, and know that there is light there that they can start to tap into, because all is not lost. And, you know, just most of the time when we get something put in front of us, to me, it's a pivot into what's the next thing that's supposed to happen, as opposed to something that's tying me down. I've just been through so many things now that it's like I can see, instead of just going straight to despair, I'm like, all right, here we go.
Ourselves and decide that we are going to heal. We actually help the medicine. We actually help everything
Yes.
around us to manifest that healing in the material world, to manifest that healing in our bodies. Because for many people, it could be devastating. For many people,
Yeah.
these experiences that you just shared with us could be really devastating, and they can go into depression and contribute with the illness, with the disease, rather than the healing process. But you are a strong woman who decided to, I will approach this issue from.
Yes, and for me to find myself with him. Yeah. It's just been, you know, it has been. If I hadn't met him, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I needed to have that happen so that I could just keep growing. I would have grown somehow, because that's kind of who I am, but I really have grown so much. So, yeah. And then, you know, probably the biggest of all was a year ago in October. I woke up from a colonoscopy and found out that there was a cancerous tumor growing in my colon. Now, I've been through all of my things, right? And so this time I was like, okay. And I thought, okay, people like Joe Dispenza say, you know, you fill your body up with gratitude and love, And that's how he has people that heal or change. And so I was like, I've been holding something back here. But I looked at it as like an opportunity. And so then I started looking into trauma and finding out where I'd had some abandonment issues in my childhood. And so I've been operating from this huge place of love, just loving myself and loving Henry and fighting with Henry and coming back and loving and living with gratitude. And I just literally just came from the oncologist office, and I'm so clear. I have no cancer in me. I am clear. And I was really fortunate that I called her Pearl. Pearl was contained in my colon, and I did have a very easy pop her right out kind of a situation. And so I'm very fortunate, but still I met with that and I decided to approach it with love. And that's how much I've grown. That's how much I've grown, Angel.
That's amazing, Kasey. That's amazing. And I truly believe that we have the capacity to heal ourselves from the love state of mind. When we step into that realm, when we are able to step into ourselves and decide that we are going to heal, we actually help the medicine. We actually help everything
Yes.
around us to manifest that healing in the material world, to manifest that healing in our bodies. Because for many people, it could be devastating. For many people,
Yeah.
these experiences that you just shared with us could be really devastating, and they can go into depression and contribute with the illness, with the disease, rather than the healing process. But you are a strong woman who decided to, I will approach this issue from love and compassion within. It was about the environment around you. It was about who you truly are and how you see the life from that moment, from the state of love, from the state of being yourself, of being unique, and manifest your true self to you and to the world.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. And
There
I am
was something
curious.
else I was going to say, but I can't remember. So we'll see what it comes up. Okay.
I am curious because I want to know how all these situations happen to open up that path to coaching for yourself, to become a storyteller, and to to reinvent yourself in a way that we all can have the blessing of having you out there sharing this message, sharing this vibe, and this beautiful energy to help other women to transition from the different challenges that they experience in life.
Did I hear you? You're kind of asking how it all came together and how I knew I wanted to share. My first kidney transplant, I was 34. I was so dumb back then. But anyway, I was 34 when I had my first kidney transplant. I was terrified. Actually, yeah, I was beyond terrified, but I had the operation. And about a week later, I got a letter in the mail from the Transplant Association that's here in St. Louis that organizes who gets the organs. I had gotten mine from my sister. But they said, would you like to be on our speakers bureau? And I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. This is my message. So in a way, I've always been kind of a storyteller, but now at 65, I get to just like do it and be it. And I just kind of keep figuring that I have learned so much. And if I can help somebody get past the roles, get past the beliefs, reframe arguments to understand each other better, if they can find love in cancer or in a guy who's 30 years younger than them, That's what I want to open women's eyes up to. Actually, anybody, any people, but really, I think women who are 50 and over, 60 and over, we turn into these powerful creatures, but we have to go through some loss first. I feel like there's a lot of it where women don't feel like they're smart enough or they have everything they need, or now they're too old. And it's like, oh no, honey, women get PhDs when they're 65. Men get a new wife or a car or a tattoo. I'm sorry, Angel, but sweeping generalization. But women, I think, have the power to really become who they're supposed to be. And that's what I'm hoping to be able to open the door for. And since I am only going to be able to coach so many people, I'm really looking forward to more storytelling, more writing, maybe speeches, keynote speaker stuff. And I want to do group work, like group Zoom calls, so women from around the world can meet new friends that they never knew that they could meet in Bangkok or Canada or, South Africa. I've got friends in all these different places now because of so many Zoom calls and programs that I've been in.
Yes, that's fantastic. I'm talking about judgment. So not every man find
I
the
know.
passion
I'm
and the
sorry.
happiness in a that. But that's totally right for certain people. I think that we go back again on what are our rules and our
Yes.
values and our belief and how we manifest that to find happiness and satisfaction in our lives. And yes, some people, men and women, find their satisfaction into the material things, getting a car,
Yeah.
getting a ring, a gem to express the beauty to the world.
Mm-hmm.
However, some other people find also that happiness and that satisfaction, as you just said, with a PhD, with a mission, a humanitarian mission, going after different goals that can actually lift up the life for somebody else. And I admire you because of that, because you decided to take life in a different way and bring the opportunity to yourself to help other people, to initiate this mission in which, hey, my name is Kasey Bergh, and I am here to help you transition life. And all these experiences that I have in my life taught me that there is another opportunity, there is another door that we can
Mm-hmm.
open and find who we really are and find happiness and find success expressed in a different way that the environment, that external environment, taught at certain
Mm-hmm.
point. Because the reality is that we live in an environment that basically drop bombs every single day telling us, hey, you need to live that life this way and you need to find this red car
Mm-hmm.
because that's what actually matters, or you need to take this selfie with this rock star because that's how you have presence in life. And nowadays we have social media, we have so many channels in which we must be present to matter, when in reality we matter beyond that. We matter without
Yeah.
social media, we matter without the big car, we matter without the big money, we matter on every single level. But most people deplete themselves because for years, not just now, for 100 years, all the bombs has been dropped on our heads telling us, hey, to matter, you need to live this way, you need to live within these rules, you need to live
Mm-hmm.
understanding that you must pay a price for that. But the reality is that you were an executive manager in a big company, a 9 million company, and all of a sudden your life was shaken and you didn't stop mattering because of that. On the contrary, you find how to matter better, even by helping other people, by reinventing yourself, by finding your true self, and nowadays be able to have this beautiful title, this great label of being Kasey the Lighthouse. What
Thank
does it
you.
mean for you?
Well, first of all, it's so delightful to have you say what I know, but hearing it from you is just so special. And I want to thank you so very much. Yes. You know, Angel, we're both doing this to make a difference with people. And I started doing like talk therapy of one kind or another 35 years ago. And it wasn't until probably even the last 2 months that I started working with a coach that really a lot changed for me. And so I want to make sure that people who are listening hear how different it is to have someone mirror you and amplify you and remind you of all the resources that you have, and that a coach is there to help you to achieve what you didn't think you could achieve. And I really want to hand it back to you and say bravo to you for making a difference and for touching the lives of people who can transform. But I really truly believe that we can't make it by ourselves, that it's really important that we work with somebody else, because that somebody else can help us see the blind spots we don't see. And then they can help illuminate the parts of this that are so special, but we don't always see them ourselves. And it's always a little bit hard to say, I'm a lighthouse and I help, of course I say that, but to have you say it is even more special. And so then I can say it back to you and say how special it is that you're in the world as well. And I just think that it's just when we have had life experiences and we can provide some tools and ideas and books and companionship and support for somebody else to find their joy and find their path that felt too dark to see, that's when real transformation happens. And it's just a joy for me to get to help other people with it. If I can help people to not, maybe it doesn't take them 35 years, and so they kind of can compress and get some new thoughts and ideas for how to transform and how to see their own light. That's really what I want to do.
Yes, wonderful. Wonderful. And thank you very much for that acknowledgement that you give to me. I think I receive it very humble, and I thank you for that. I think that's an important mission that we decide to take on. Probably no one's came to you, knock your door, and say, "Hey, Kasey, I think that you are the best person to do transformational coaching right now."
Right.
Probably it's something that you found looking at the mirror and looking back to your life experiences, and you decided to take this path and share that experience with other people and bring that light to other people, to other women who have been in a similar position where you were. And probably you are the answer that they are needing right now. You are the answer that they are after right now. And you can bring that clarity and you can help them find those blind spots, because we all have blind spots and we don't see until someone else is there for us and show, hey, probably this is what's really happening. You cannot see it because you are there and you cannot see your blind spot, but definitely this is something that I can see from outside. And this is happening right now, and you're experiencing life right now because of this situation. And your perception of the world could happen, could change. It's just happening for you to change, for you to transform, for you to step out of this state and see the beauty that is out there, just present, just available for you to see. And it's wonderful that you are there for them. It's wonderful that you are there expressing this beauty, expressing this beautiful energy that most people are needing right now. And I want to thank you for that, because that's a moment of realization for myself as well, for you and for everybody who is here listening this episode. This is Kasey Bergh, the Lighthouse, a woman from Missouri who experienced different issues in their life, issues that you can experience as well. And there is always an opportunity to make change, to find a way out of the trauma, heal, and find love.
Bravo. Thank you, Angel. This has been an absolute delight.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. This is the Life Coaching Podcast. And this is Kasey Bergh, a wonderful woman with an extraordinary story and a better message to share with the world. Kasey, where can people find you?
They can find me on my website, kaseybergh.com, and also on Facebook and Instagram. And then also on Facebook, there's a Kasey and Henry page too, where I kind of talk about the things that we do together and concerts we've gone to and all those kinds of fun adventures.
How do you help people, Kasey? So everyone who is here wants to know, how do you help people?
How do I?
How do you help them?
It's about finding, I think that the most important thing for people to start with is awareness, because I think that my biggest message of all messages is learn the difference between your wisdom and the voice in your head that's telling you lies, it's telling you you're fat or old or anything, or that somebody doesn't like you. I heard Marianne Williamson in person one time. It was the most amazing thing. And she said, if your thoughts are connected to love, you're connected into God. And if your thoughts are not, if they're envious or angry or frustrated, then you're not connected into God. And so I really want people to recognize when they have lost themselves and then how to come back to center, to feel their shirt, to feel the table or the chair, to breathe, to do EFT tapping or something to get their nervous system back together. And that, if there was only two things that I taught somebody, it would have the awareness to know when they're listening to the voice in their head versus what their wisdom is. And then beyond that, then it just becomes about like all kinds of other philosophies that I've created.
And it turns into a second nature so people can find a better way to experience life.
Yes. And it's not easy. I can just be like so mad at Henry that I understand how people commit murder. Because I can just, but then I have learned so much to know that that's like old childhood wounds, or, it's something that's way beyond Henry. He just happens to be standing there and said something that triggered me. So, but even for me, that can be hard to come back. And I'll say to him, this is so hard. I want to hate you right now, but we just love each other and we bicker and then we fight and then we like come back. And I heard somebody who met a monk one time, a Buddhist monk, and she said, don't you ever get mad? And he said, well, of course I do, but we just can come back to center so quickly, immediately. And so Henry and I have gotten so much better at having it be minutes now, where it used to be hours or days or something of being angry. And so it's definitely about having awareness to know when we're not in our wisdom and then how to come back to center.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kasey. And that's how we end up this episode today. I am really grateful for you, for your story, for sharing this wisdom, this passion that you have, and this energy with everyone. Any final message for the audience?
Oh my goodness, no pressure. I would say, look for the opportunities and notice that we're, all right, here we go. We're a planet in the midst of a universe that's bigger than anybody could ever imagine. There's 8 billion people on the planet. I say, I can't promise you that if you do these things, that you too will have a 1 in a billion love, like story. But I can promise you that if you remember that you're alive and how amazing life is, then I can say you're one of 8 billion people and you're already living a 1 in 8 billion chance. You are alive. And that all by itself is so fantastic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kasey. This is the Life Coaching Podcast. My name is Angel Gonzalez. And Kasey has just shared with us an extraordinary story of love, and a story of survival, and a story of opportunities to find ourselves back again when we are experiencing any sort of trauma, any sort of challenge, any sort of difficulties. We can do better every single day, not because we are not the best version of ourselves, but because we can upgrade every single day to be consistently the best version of ourselves. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I believe in you. I believe in your unlimited capacity to find and create the results that you need to improve the quality of your life. Thank you, Kasey. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to the Life Coaching Podcast. I hope that today's episode has empowered and inspired you to take bold steps towards your own personal and professional breakthrough. If you found value in today's stories and insights, please share this episode with your friends and family. Because your feedback fuels my mission to bring you even more impactful content. And next week, I will continue to explore the amazing potential within ourselves. Until then, keep striving, keep dreaming, and keep moving forward towards your best life. I am your host, Angel Gonzalez, and this is the Life Coaching Podcast.